Hi, I'm Ken Fatula, and I want to show you how to prepare guacamole. And I'm not a chef, but I'm an experienced eater. A lot of people don't like avocados, or so I've been told. Then if you ask those people, well, have you ever had guacamole? No. What's that? It's made with avocados. I don't like avocados. Well, you've never had guacamole. It's awesome. And guacamole initially is three ingredients at a minimum, and that is an avocado, lime juice, and salt. Very simple. And then you can amp it up, which is what we're going to do, is we're going to try to make it a little more interesting, give it some flavor profiles that ordinarily you don't see. And remember now, I'm not a chef. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to clean the avocado. Now, before you cut into an avocado, what you want to do is wash the outside. I know you're not going to be eating the rind or the outside of the thing, but still in all, it should be clean. Now I'm going to tell you about the fact that you've got a stem end on this. When you're trying to find avocados, people squeeze them, and that's okay, except that sometimes you'll run into a problem. If you squeeze it and it retains the shape that you just caused it to acquire, that might be a little bit too ripe. And you'll find out that avocado that's too ripe is going to have fibrous zones toward the outside, which are essentially inedible. So that's an avocado that's gone too far. Also, they can get bruised. They'll get a little brown. And this one's not too far, but it was starting to get a little brown on the outside. Nevertheless, it's firm. So what you want to do is you scoop out, this is at least how I do it. There might be a better way. You scoop out the avocado meat from the shell. So we got that down. There's a stem area that you might want to avoid, only because I don't want something that's kind of pithy floating around in my guacamole. Here's what I do whenever I'm cutting them. And just understand this, I'm not a chef. So if somebody says, well, that's not the way that you're supposed to do it, that's not the way that Bobby Flay does it. By the way, Bobby Flay is an awesome chef. I've watched some cooking shows and I really appreciate what they do, and I'm not making any pretense. It's just that most people, they don't make their own food anymore. They'll go down and they'll buy some guacamole that maybe they got it in the grocery store, and quite honestly, it's just not the same. Now, that's how you take the pit out, or at least that's the way that I do it. You could use a variety of ways you can lever the thing out, but here's the stem end, and I try to avoid that if at all possible. Now what I'm going to do, I'm using 3 avocados because, well, I don't want to use all of my good avocados for this thing. We're going to have some more of this on Sunday. Oh, my wife eventually is going to go outside and she is going to get some cilantro, because we have some cilantro that's being in our garden area. And once you establish cilantro, you have it forever. I can tell you that much. We've got some that actually wintered over, and we had a fairly cold winter. So it's kind of neat. And I find that avocados don't have a strong flavor, something that's super pronounced, but they're creamy, and they do have kind of an interesting note. It's subdued, but I like it a lot, and I think that's why guacamole itself is so appealing. At least this is a theory that I've got, and that is that you take a chip, which you can use any kind of chip for that matter, although probably you want to stick with something that's corn-based. But you take a chip, and when you insert the chip into the dip, and the salt that's in or on that chip kind of like gives it a savoriness, bumps it up just a little bit. So that's why you don't want to put too much salt in it when you're making it. Now this is not the softest that I've ever had, and it's also not the hardest. So that's a good thing. What we're doing is I'm just kind of chopping it up. Now, texture is everything. Some people want avocado, or I should say guacamole, that is nothing but soft. They want it creamy, and that's okay. Eventually, if you work it long enough, you'll get it down to where it is creamy. But then there are some people that like to have chunks in it. I have no problem either way. This is going to, because these avocados themselves were just a slightly bit different in consistency, I'm probably going to end up with a different kind of mix or blend. But just remember, avocados, guacamole, and what we're going to do here, trying to get this thing, you know, when you watch the TV shows, they give them 20 minutes to make an appetizer, talking about Chopped, or maybe Beat Bobby Flay or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, how do they do it? Because I can't, but then I'm not a chef. All right, now you can mash it. If you've got a potato masher, you can use that. In fact, maybe I should use that. But I'm gonna go the route with a fork and a spoon and try to turn it into a creamy mess. Not a mess. It's not a mess. It's just take the flesh and push on it. Oh, at any rate. Hey, where's that potato masher?
Oh, really like it.
Okay. I think that got us on the right course.
Didn't you put Chinese five spice in it one time?
Okay, what we're not talking about is the mistakes that I've made. I'm not a chef.
I know.
Okay, I did make a mistake.
And you proved it.
It started with C. It was chipotle. That's something that you can add to it. Chipotle seasoning has some heat. It's a roasted pepper. I guess I don't know if it's a jalapeno. I'm not honestly sure. Chipotle pepper. So they roast it and then they grind it and it turns into a powder. Hence, powder. Okay. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to lick this. We're gonna have to wash this later. I'm gonna move over just a tad bit so that my wife.
Okay, I will wash this for
Yes.
you.
And I'm going to be putting some salt. Now this is about a tablespoon. Not a tablespoon, a teaspoon. And I'm not going to put the full teaspoon in because I don't want to over salt it. So now we got some salt in here. Move that around. Thank you, Jim, for pointing out the fact that I should at least tell people what I'm doing. Because let's face it, I don't talk to myself very much when I'm making food. All right, so we've got this going on. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, it's time for the lime. I'll rinse the lime off. You want to do that because you don't know what kind of pesticides, cancer-causing, or high-explosive things that might be on your lime.
Or what was on the people's hand to pick and pack the
And
limes.
thank you for that image. I appreciate it.
And you're dragging all that stuff into the flesh of
Leonore.
Well, no, and that's why
That's exactly right.
That's why you wash the outside of the
She's right. So now you're going to cut through the axis of the line. Yeah, this is like some kind of geography thing. Now there are two ways that you can do this. This is, what is it called? Citrus juicer.
Oh, the
You
one.
can use a juicer.
That's a Mexican. You're talking about the part of
No, I'm talking about this
plastic one?
juicer. I'm talking about the plastic one.
Yeah, it's just
According to
old
my
fashioned.
wife, and my wife is almost always right. She's told me that. And I'm only using. We've got 3 avocados, and I'm going to use 1/2 because I don't want to overpower it with lime juice. But this will get more juice out of it than if you use this other device, which I will show it to you. You can use it. Leonore, I'm going to toss this over there. Thank you. Wonderful to have a helper. If I wanted to use this, what I would have done is put the cut side down and then just fold this over, squeeze it, and you get juice out of it. That's funny because that worked really good. So you've got these juicers, you can buy them.
You had already squeezed it.
I had already squeezed it,
Softened
right.
it.
Some more, yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably true.
I'm thinking the
Fair amount of lime juice here.
cilantro is one of these herbs that you can use the stems because they usually stay pretty tender, but some of this cilantro had gotten a little, well, it was blooming, so I'm not using
Blooming
the
cilantro.
hard stems, yeah.
Okay, so going to get chips. We're going to have an impartial person check it. Any kind of chip will do. We're cheap, so Aldi special.
Yeah, we're
And that we're not endorsing Aldi.
we're not doing ads for Aldi.
We're not doing ads
but
for
we
anybody.
love Aldi.
We're not going to. Let me have a bite first.
Oh, you like the King's Poison tester? Okay, this.
Would you like to try some?
Ooh, yes.
Okay, that is delicious. But it can become more delicious, and that's what we're going to talk about. There are things that you can add to the guacamole if you just want to bump it up a little bit. Well, we're going to put this in a bowl.
Okay, if you don't want to use all that cilantro, just save it, and we can put it on tacos or something.
Tacos. Taco meat's going to be the next thing that we're going to be doing. Woo!
Okay, I am.
Now, there's a way to do this that the chefs do, but I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move this over. The counter has been cleaned with Clorox. Once again, we're not endorsing Clorox. I'm just telling you that that's what we use. And my wife, one thing about it, this is an old kitchen, but she keeps it in terms of food safety. Oh, yeah. So, oh, Leonore, look at this.
You're just excited about eating.
I am.
That is
It's
the main
all about
reason-
eating.
that's
Okay,
the
so
main
what you've
reason
done
you're
is
doing this show.
I've taken some salt.
So you have an excuse to
Leonore, I've taken some cilantro. I'm not sure how much I want to put in there. You think that's too much? I don't think that's
I'm
too
out of
much.
this. You're not the chef, so you have to make.
I'm not a
decisions.
chef. I think it needs a little bit more. We'll find out in a minute. This is and by the way, you can use more avocados. This is not a big batch of dip. More cilantro. But I think that'll do it. Oh. I'm sorry, but the stuff really tastes good. I'm telling you right now, see, here's the deal. You need to make your own guacamole. You go to the store, you buy this stuff, you open it up. Usually it looks pretty funky anyway, I think. But you buy guacamole, and they've already made a decision as to what your guacamole is going to taste like. Here, you're in the driver's seat. You're in charge. You get to make the choice. Raise your hand if you like to do things that involve your choice instead of somebody telling you what to do. Raise your hand. You, of course, know that I can't see you raise your hand. But nevertheless, do it. Now, what we're going to do, I think it's got the right salt profile. Something else that you can add to it. Chipotle seasoning. Now, this will bump it up a little bit. You don't put a lot in because a little goes a long way. But what it'll do is it'll throw a little bit of heat. And that's all I want is a little bit. I don't want, I'm not trying to overpower. I'm not trying to kill people. So you got some chipotle in there. I love this, Jim. I love this. Try a little bit of this. That'll do it. Oh my goodness. Jim, you've got to try one of these. This is, now how many people when they're recording involve the crewmen to tell them how much money, how their food is tasting. Seriously, he gets nothing for this. He has to drive many miles, probably braving, risking his life on the PA Turnpike. I don't know. Did you use the Northeast Extension?
In snow and sleet in July, yes.
Where are we? Is it okay? See, I have an impartial person here. He knows that I'll never invite him over. No, that's not true.
That is
Now,
also very delicious.
That is also very delicious. So what we've done is we've added a couple things here. Now, another thing that you can add, I've got some grape tomatoes. I already washed them. So I'm cutting these in half. Eventually what I'm going to be doing, and my wife has another way of doing it which is good for her and it never works for me. And that is you take grape tomatoes, you put them between two plastic lids, and you just slice through them. And my wife's got that all worked out, and I don't. So I'm cutting them in quarters now, and then I'm going to be just knocking the snot out of them. I can hardly wait. Gee, Ken, have you cut yourself yet? No. You know what I like is when they have those competitions and you watch people that are actual chefs and they're bah, 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 and then all of a sudden one of them says, "Ooh, I cut myself." And then it's sort of like, gee, you didn't see that coming? But that's okay. You know, you learn certain skills. When I was a gunner on M1 tanks, that's a skill. Believe it or not. That was with the National Guard, the 28th Infantry Division. I was with a unit that was stationed in Berwick, Pennsylvania. And great group of guys. Oh my goodness. We just gotta try this. So now, I may have to add some salt to this. Oh.
One of my pet peeves, always close the salt after you use it so it doesn't get dampness in it. We have different kitchen styles, which is one reason I'm staying out of the way.
I have no style.
No, you.
Or maybe I don't have any class. It's one of the two. What do you think? Try it.
That's good. That might need a touch more salt. Just a
Yep.
pinch.
We're gonna see what happens. I wanna get this onion. Now here's the deal. Now we're gonna add onion, and you say, "I hate onions." Oh, that onion's on the floor. Get that later. Here's the problem with onions. Most people have eaten onions raw onions, and they probably were cooking onions. You know, your yellow onion or something. Don't do that. That's like not smart. They're the harshest. When you're cutting them, you'll cry. There's the sweetness, and there's sugar someplace in there, but it's not available immediately. They have to be cooked a little bit before they release any of that. At least that's my experience. I'm not a chef. I don't know if that's how it works. I just know that sweet onions for me are the way to go. So I'm going to cut this thing. This is going to be used later. Oh, it came apart. This is not the way you're supposed to cut an onion. I've watched the people do it on TV. And frankly, ask me if I care. Ask me if I care. I don't care. What I'm trying to do here is I'm going to cut this as fine as I can get it. And I know that you always put your fingers on like that. Yeah, like I got a great grip doing that. Always have a sharp knife. They say that a sharp knife will prevent you from cutting yourself. I'm not sure if I understand that. All right, I'm going to just cut this so that it's fairly fine. I could have used a mandolin only. Well, I get that out. Actually, it's hanging on the wall. But this is it. Sweet onion. And I'm going to have our impartial judge. Okay, we got the sweet onion. Oh, baby. Oh, I can hardly wait. I'm telling you right now. Sweet onion. I use sweet onion in almost everything. And the reason I do it is because a lot of the things that I make, I actually want a little bit of sugar in it. If I need to add acid, I'll add acid. If I need to add salt, I'll add salt. But I just think that if you've got an onion, that it's going to give you that onion, that sort of almost an ethereal, vaporous, it's like the cilantro. That's how there's a vapor in the cilantro. Maybe it's the essence of the oil or whatever it might be. I don't know because I'm not a chef, but oh.
Were you going to add a little bit of salt?
I'm going, because you're here, I'm going to add a
No, I
little
thought
bit
you
of salt.
said you thought it.
Yeah, I think that it probably does.
Just a tad.
Just a little bit. That's about quarter of a teaspoon, I think. So, go in there. All right, I'm gonna go with that. And now, see, one of the considerations is if you put salt on it, there's salt on the chip already,
Yeah.
so you don't want to overpower things. Just in the same way that you don't want to have too much cilantro, which, by the way, right now, since we added a lot of things, it might require a little bit more
Yeah.
cilantro. I don't know.
I think it needs a little bit more chipotle, but that's just my opinion, and I'm not a chef
Yeah, well,
either.
yeah, your opinion.
Are you speechless? Speechless over your
I'm going to give this
creation?
to the impartial.
The impartial paid, not paid judge.
People are going to think that you get money.
You work for avocados.
Mmm.
Is that pretty good?
Oh, yeah.
See, that's the ticket right there. I don't like avocado. You're putting flavor in. You're adding stuff. You're amping everything up. I'm telling you right now, this is gold. Now, we're not done yet. Because you see, if you got chips out and you got some guacamole, and let's say you're sitting down and you're watching a show, a movie, you know, whatever. Maybe you're watching the Eagles. I hope that doesn't send away my buddy here that's watching it, if I have a buddy. There are some things that you might want as accompaniments. One of them is, and I'm not endorsing this, I'm just saying, there's a picante sauce that just so happens Paces. This is a mild, they have a medium, you could use that. That's why I have these bowls. Or this is something that I just love, black bean and corn salsa. Oh, baby, I'm telling you right now, this is where the action is. Now, there are a bunch of companies that make it. I prefer this red gold, but I've only been exposed to a certain number of these salsas. And what I like with the black bean, you have a little bit of background of heat. It's a medium heat. Then you've got a little bit of sweetness to it with the corn, and they toss some sugar in. Not much, just a little bit, because the tomatoes that are in it have an automatic. They kind of amp up the sweetness on it. So you've got heat, you got sweet, then you got the beans. And for me, what the beans do is it gives it a different kind of texture and flavor. They're black beans. When you bite into this stuff on a chip, it's kind of like a little dance in your mouth.
A salsa?
A salsa. It's a salsa dance. Oh my goodness. Now this is gold. What you do is, these are things that you can put. You can have your salsa, you can have your homemade guacamole, and you can take some of this cheese, con queso. And a lot of people, I know they buy it, I don't know how they prepare it. I know how I prepare it. And that is, I heat it in the microwave, 40 seconds. Hey, Mrs. Fatula, so far so good.
Oh, watch out, don't step back. The cat is back there.
Oh. And there it is. Yes, that's right.
Your food's downstairs, honey.
Your food's downstairs, we moved it. There's a story with that cat. Her name is Pants.
We're just babysitting her for a couple of weeks.
We are babysitting her. When I walked out front what it was, autumn day, it was like 45 degrees outside. I'd seen this black, long-haired little thing, and I felt sorry for her, so I put food out. And because I'm an idiot and don't understand the fact that she was too young to eat hard food, anyway, the next morning I happened to walk out to get the newspaper. I was retired at the time, and I looked down and I saw this thing, and she was shivering. So I brought her inside. At any rate, I nursed it. And by the way, I had to feed her with a teeny tiny nipple out of a bottle they sell something called cat's milk.
Kitten milk
Kitten milk, kitten milk.
at the vet. Yep.
So for a while, as in a couple weeks, I'm feeding this cat. Anyway, that was over 10 years ago, and there she is. Oh. We're ready to go. Leonore, turn on BritBox and let's have at it. No, I'm just kidding.
Why guacamole and
Guacamole and BritBox.
BritBox? You should have them turn on their Apple TV YouTube
So this
channel.
is the bottom line. Look. You made your guacamole. This you didn't have to make. All you had to do was warm it up. And by the way, this brand's not bad. There are a lot of them that are made. Tostitos has their brand. This Red Gold, I can't get it locally. I had to pick it up on my way. I went to visit my kids in Oklahoma City, and then in a place called Searcy, Arkansas. And it was great, but I couldn't find something called Spikes. That's it's Spikes, Santa Fe packaging or something like that. They're the people that they introduced me to the joys of black bean and corn salsa. So you got your warm cheese, you got your cold salsa, salsa, black bean and corn. You got the guacamole that's got a ton of stuff in it. The one thing you've got to understand though is if this thing stays out in the air for an extended period of time, it's going to go brown on you. That doesn't mean that it's gone bad. It means that it looks ugly. What you can do is you take some kind of saran wrap or plastic, saran wrap, press it down on top of it to keep any kind of oxygen from getting to it. And that will have an effect in keeping the thing from going brown, and keep it in the fridge. I've heard other things. Well, if you put the pit in with it, it won't go brown. I've heard that. I think that might be sort of like a wives' tale, but it doesn't matter. We have our guacamole. I think I'm basically done. I hope that this has been informative and that you have enjoyed it, whoever you might be. And that I'm going to be making taco meat next, and that hopefully will be more entertaining and more informative.
And you should tell the viewer to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Please. I beg you. On my children. No, forget it. Like and subscribe. I'm trying to make this entertaining. And by the way, maybe you've got something that you'd like to see a moron like me, who's not a chef, try to make. I do crab cakes. I do a Philly cheesesteak. Yeah. Cheaper and better. We also do, like I said, crab cakes. I have a Hungarian goulash. There are a variety of, my wife makes like a rice pilaf that is amazing. Ratatouille, roasted vegetables, in particular root vegetables. That's one of them. That's rutabagas and carrots, onions, and parsnips. Oh, yes. And we have a repertoire. All right. So like us, subscribe, whatever. And I hope you have a great day and try this out. Seriously, it's awesome.